Well, hey everyone, it's another Sunday and another Toolbox Tech Talk. Yeah, the sun's shining and the word on the street is lockdown's finishing this Thursday night in Victoria. Woohoo! Gonna be a lot of shouting and whooping there. Yeah, so welcome everyone to, actually this is a bit of news, probably one of the last Toolbox Tech Talks, because actually I started this series when lockdown started, and it was a way because I'm stuck at home with my family, just kind of giving something back on a Sunday to the industry and trying to reveal parts of the industry, people involved and some of the technical stuff. Lockdown's finished. Bendigo, why not? Anyway, today, before I introduce my guests, I should acknowledge the traditional owners of the land I'm broadcasting to you from, the Wurundjeri people, and that's the Yarra Valley where I live. So my guests today, I've got two guests. I've got Kane Hinchcliffe and Tayyab Bukhari. Both of them are from a company called Kola Solar, and they're based in Bendigo. So let's bring them on and say hi. G'day, Kane. G'day, Tayyab.
Hi Glenn, how are you going?
Hi Glenn, how's it going?
It's going well. Like I said, it's a sunny day and lockdown's finishing. How are you feeling about that?
Certainly looking forward to getting out and about again, visiting family and friends. It's something that I've been missing a lot after relocating to Bendigo.
So same here with myself. Looking to catch up with the family and going to see friends after this lockdown. What about yourself, Kane?
Yeah, certainly looking at doing that. Coming from Shepparton and moving to Bendigo this year. A lot of my friends and family are obviously from Shepparton, but yeah, it's certainly going to be good over Christmas to be able to go back and visit those people and maybe travel interstate for a bit of leave.
Yep.
Certainly looking at doing that. I'm not sure about if we've still got Glenn there. We've lost him. Oh, he's back.
I did warn you this very rare event might happen, and what do you know, it happened straight away. We've had an earthquake. We haven't had tsunami yet, but we've had a few dropouts on my Starlink. So sorry about that, guys.
No, that's fine. No problems at all. Technology, that's what happens. So we just work around that today. There's no problems there.
So I guess you were just chatting away there to the audience a bit about, lockdown finishing.
Mm.
Yep.
All good?
Yep. All good.
Great. So, just gathering my thoughts again after that weird event, because I actually had to jump up then, Kane, you'll probably understand this problem, and repatch my internet connection through to another service. So that was a bit of fun. So look, tell us a little bit about Kola Solar before we launch into you guys. So, Tayyab, what's the history behind Kola Solar?
So Kola Solar, Glenn, started 11 years ago with the founders, Tony Ruff and Kay Ruff. So it started up as a very little company, and then sooner it gained a lot of weight. And nowadays, Kola Solar is working with 45 employees full time at the moment, and we are the biggest in Central Victoria and serving the people of Central Victoria.
Right. Wow. So how many years was that?
11 years ago.
11 years. So you've been on the solar coaster, Kola Solar, been on the solar coaster for quite a long time.
Yep.
I'm interested about the name too. Where does that come from?
So that's a family name, Kola, and solar, as you know. So we can say there's a Kola Solar in terms of a jingle.
I kept on, my autocorrect kept on trying to putting an R on the end, so it took me a while to get the spelling right, along with actually making sure I mentioned Bendigo, not the other B word. Yeah. So let's talk a bit about you guys. So over to Kane for a second. So Kane, how did you come to be in solar?
So basically, I've always had an interest in the renewable energy sector just from a young age. playing with solar panels and different games and that over the time. And in the IT industry, basically since I finished school, and my partner was living in Bendigo, and I'd driven past Cola Solar a few times, and it sort of didn't trigger at the time when I saw it. It was just a very big building with a very big logo, and I was looking for different jobs around this area, and a job came up as a solar consultant. I've been working in the IT industry in a sales position and also a technical position for quite some years, and I decided at the time maybe I could use some of my knowledge in IT to go and put that into the solar industry. And I approached Kohler Solar and just sent them an email, and here I am. So it just sort of eventuated like that.
Kane, I'm still having a slight technical hitch where you're frozen. Is it happening at your end as well?
No, I can see you quite fine, and I've got Tayyab on screen here.
Yep.
I'm just going to flick you on and off the screen for a second. Sorry, everyone. This is a little bit embarrassing. Take you off the screen and bring you back on. And, it looks frozen at my end, but if it's not frozen at your end, that's all good. I should take this opportunity to reach out to the audience too and just say, look, if you've got questions or comments, please feel free to put them into the chat because I can bring them on screen and we can answer them. So if you want to know anything about solar or Kohler Solar in particular, now's a good chance to start asking those questions. But just coming back to you, Kane, so the transition from the IT industry to the solar industry, what was that like?
Steep learning curve. There are some aspects of solar that I guess bleed into the IT industry, certainly with the connection of your inverters and bits and pieces for monitoring. So there is a little bit of a bridge in technology there. I've got a little bit of interest in electrical background. My late father was an electrician, so I grew up around switchboards being made and bits and pieces, and working in his factory. So it is in my blood. It's just not something that I really identified until much later in life. So, and moving into this sector has really given me the ability to expand on my knowledge and soak it up. And with the likes of Tayyab and his technical background, it's given me the ability to just absorb that and look at new avenues of where I can take my career.
Speaking of having the electrical industry in your blood, I believe, Tayyab, you've got a bit of a story behind your family history.
Thanks, Glenn. I have a connection from a power generation industry from a long time. My grandfather used to work with Westinghouse company, which is now part of a Siemens company, and he started his work in 1940s. And after my grandfather, my dad started in 1980s. And after that, my brother started in 2006. And after that, Tayyab started in 2012. And I finished my bachelor's degree of electrical engineering in 2016. And then I decided to move to Australia. And then in 2018, I started my degree of master's in renewable energy engineering at Deakin University. And then finished it off and started at Kohler Solar in Jan 2021.
Just before we went on the air, I was just making a joke about the fact that your family get-togethers must be a bit shop talk. Must be a lot of shop talk.
Absolutely. My mum and I sometime, and she says, "What's going on?" and we, sometimes start talking at home, and sometimes we don't talk about engineering and other things at home. So that's a bit
cool. So Kane, you've done a lot of things in your life already. So bringing some of that to the solar industry, but you've also done some kind of interesting precursors. I believe you're motivated a bit by a computer game to get into understanding the relationship between sun and solar energy.
Yeah, so used to play a game as a child at school. We used to have little Apple II, I think it was at the time. And there was a game called Sun Racer. So, and the challenge of the game was to get your solar-powered vehicle up a hill with the challenges of a hill and clouds and not cooking your battery or overheating it. So, and I used to play with solar panels and used to have those sort of little electronic kits. So I had a little Dick Smith kit that I played with, and those electronic kits where you follow instructions that have like a pinout, and you've got 1 to 12 and all these different things, and you can do different experiments. So I was introduced to that by my father, and he inspired that, I guess that direction in my life.
Hey, Kane, you just given me a business idea. You know the game called Sims?
Yes.
How about solar Sims off grid? So you've got to run your off grid home, and you've got limited amount of storage, a slightly unpredictable amount of solar. Your usage will go up and down based on choices.
Could be onto something there.
It might even be useful as a qualifier for customers. Like, I don't know, do you do off grid customers?
Yes, we do. We do a few off grid installations. We sort of simplified things, and we work very closely with Red Earth. So we do a lot of battery solutions and off grid through them.
Yeah, so kind of just following on that concept there, one of the challenges for, as you realise, for off grid is trying to explain to the customer the limitations of resources. So the game, like Sunracer Racer, helps you realise that you've got to manage this resource of renewable energy and stored energy. So it's quite a good analogy, the fact that there's a computer game that teaches you a bit about this, though it's very much about driving a car from Adelaide to Darwin. But yeah, imagine having that as something that you give your potential customers and seeing if you can actually live off grid before you choose to go off grid.
We could be onto something there. We should talk about that later.
You heard it here first. Solar Sims. Oh, it's probably copyright, but we can't call it Sims. But there you go. So look, you've had a really interesting list of fun things that you do, which you sent me before the show. One of them was flying in a fighter jet. How on earth does that get to happen?
It's a little bit of a bucket list item. I've got an interest in aviation. Previously, before joining the IT industry, I wanted to go into the Air Force. I went through the testing phases at the time, and just direction in life changed at that point, and I ended up settling down and having a family. So I didn't pursue that, but I still have an interest. For my 30th birthday, all my friends got together and paid for a jet fighter flight up at Port Macquarie. So it was a 45-minute dogfight with jet fighter, and it was a great experience. I definitely want to do it again. We were pulling around 5 Gs in the jet, so that's in an L-39. So that's a small reconnaissance jet aircraft, fighter jet, made for the Czech army. So it was Czechoslovakian Air Force. So yeah, it was good. It was good fun, and certainly the fastest I've ever travelled in my life. And we did a lot of exercises that you can't do in your standard aircraft because we run under different rules. So we travelled very close to the water and pulled some very precarious sort of manoeuvres that quite frightened me at the time.
Including flying upside down?
I did all that. I was able to even pilot it for a short period of time as well, which was quite good. It was quite an experience, to say the least.
Wow, I don't know what 5G feels like, but it sounds like your blood would drain from your head.
You're on the point of passing out, pretty much.
Wow. Okay. Just hope that the pilot's got good pressure suit.
Yeah.
Hey, we've got a question in here, and also a thumbs up from Deb. So I don't know if you're Deb Robinson. She's given you the thumbs up there. That's really nice. Thank you. The question actually comes from Andrew. So Andrew's asking here, will hydrogen power storage at homes compete with batteries? What do you think, Tayyab?
Upon my understanding, there is a bit of a situation going around, like we wouldn't come to a point that it can compete, but we can definitely have a look of that to get it compared. But as you know, that it's a bit of a long thing. So I reckon it can do that, but as you know, that we need to dig it a bit more to came to a point, we can say like whether it's competitive or not.
Yeah, look, maybe I should explain a little bit to the audience what this means. Is generally this is probably hydrolysis at home. So you're taking electricity, using a hydrolyzer, creating hydrogen or splitting water basically into hydrogen and oxygen, and storing that in a safe way. And then you can recombine that to make electricity, or you can burn it as a fuel source. And it's the cleanest fuel, like your waste products, water and heat. It's pretty amazing. But one of the downsides is that from an efficiency point of view, the electrical input to the thermal output or even the electrical output is very poor. But I often say with solar, your concepts of efficiency change because the resource is free. You're not paying for the resource.
Yeah.
So, people used to, I don't know if you still get these questions, say, oh, I want the most efficient solar panels. And they thought that would be the cheapest option. Doesn't turn out to be true generally, but what do you think?
Definitely not the cheapest option. You're right, as you explain it in a very good way. So I reckon that's not a cheapest option that the people are looking for, but who knows the future?
So with hydrogen, I guess if you've got, as the price of solar continues to drop, and it gets virtually, it's basically free energy, and if you've got more than you can use, storing as hydrogen is a very viable option now because you're not actually spending any money to store it.
Yeah.
I guess the competition will be batteries, so which is a better way to store energy. But I think hydrogen is going to make some appearances in the home storage market.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for that question, Andrew. And we've got another hello from Tracy. Tracy says, okay. Hi, Tracy. Nice to have you there. And anyone else who's got comments or questions, please feel free just to type them into the chat and we can bring them on screen and talk a bit about them. So, Tayyab, you've been involved in a few projects this year and some of them have been quite big for Kohler Solar. What's your favourite one?
So my favourite one was Ballarat Wildlife Park. As you know, that it was installed in a park, so which is good for the animals as well and for the visitors as well. That we got installed 100 kilowatt of a system, existing 2G inverters. So my favourite was basically Ballarat Wildlife Park.
Right, cool. So I think Kane might have a photo. I just kind of prompted him at the last second then, so he's probably trying to dig it out of his massive collection. But so you cover a big area, so not just Bendigo, like you said, Central Victoria basically, which includes Ballarat.
Yes, we cover the whole Central Victoria, from Geelong, Ballarat, Bendigo, and other central part of the side. So fair bit of good side we do covers. Yeah.
And a sort of follow-on question, really, while Kane's trying to dig out that photo, nudge, nudge, is so look, I was a bit surprised how big Kohler Solar is. How many people have you got employed?
At Kohler Solar, we employed 45 people full-time at the moment. So some are field services staff and some are office staff from, sales, connection, and engineering, works department, and admin team. So full whole package Kohler Solar have.
Right, cool. So Kane's got the photo. Let me just bring it up. Here we go. So this is the Ballarat Wildlife Park?
Yeah, that's just one of our installation photos. Just trying to dig up one of the other ones. We've got some more information. It's one of our top projects. It's on display on our commercial section of our website at the moment, along with a full media stream on a YouTube clip that you can also view. One of the other photos I can bring up is the commissioning process that Tayyab and I went through on the day.
Yeah, before you leave this photo, so for those who are not from Victoria or New South Wales, the requirement for edge protection is come into force, it's a very good idea from safety perspective. And as you can see, that's the temporary fencing you've got around there.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. Yep. It's kind of amazing the solar industry's got away with it for so long, not actually had to think about people falling from the roof, just relying on a harness which you trip over half the time. Yep. So did you have a picture of you guys commissioning this system?
Yeah, I certainly did. I'll bring that up now.
Okay.
So the first photo we've got here is of Tayyab doing
I'm
the
just going to take this
commissioning.
one off the screen while you get that
Yeah,
sorted.
sure.
And while you're doing that, actually a question just came in which we might answer while Kane's getting this ready. So Andrew, who'd asked the last question about hydrogen, was saying, my solar installation at home doesn't benefit me much. Most energy is going back to the grid and I'll get little for it compared to my usage 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. I need some form of storage. Do you get this question much?
Yeah, we do. We recommend a battery in that solution. It's the best way to make use of that energy. Put your energy into a battery and reuse that later in the evening or when you use it instead of peak power. And there's different solutions out there that support this. We sell a Tesla solution that suits this need. It's one of our primary batteries that we sell, and Soltaro as well. So it's two solutions that we offer, and it fits this purpose perfectly. So yeah, we'd recommend a battery in this case, and and take it from there.
Cool. Andrew, I'd throw my 2 cents at you, which is you don't actually have to use all of your solar in your house to make it worthwhile, because solar actually has become so cheap. Even if you're giving away half of it, it's still saving you a lot of money. The payback is still very, very attractive. So batteries are great for giving backup and capturing your surplus solar, but just having lots of solar by itself is still a very viable option. People were wedded to the concept of feed-in tariffs for a long time, like it's not worth it unless you've got a feed-in tariff. Now that's not true anymore. Now, I see your pictures come up, so I'll just bring that on screen. Yeah, there's Tayyab in his warm clothing.
It was raining that day when I was setting up an export limit of SCC 1000 for GE inverters. So that was a good picture which Kane captured over there. He was standing next to that.
So tell me about the inverters you've used there.
So there were two GE 50 kilowatt of inverters on 100 kilowatt of a system. So it's I think it's the GE inverter is more good in terms of having MPPTs. That gives you a good to design the system. So that's it.
Do you remember how many MPPTs the 50 kilowatt unit has?
I think 5 of them.
Right. Okay.
So 5 of them are having each inverter. So
certainly for complicated roofs where you can't just string everything the same, it's really nice. And that roof, I've seen an aerial picture of it. It goes many facets. It's not just, one surface. So you had to deal with that as well.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's the export limiting above, is it?
So it's above the inverters, if you see that. So that is GE export limitation device.
And quite a bit of elegant tray work there to cover all the DC cables.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, so just a general alert to the audience that there's a new standard coming for 503, which may change some of these requirements. So I can't say too much because it's still yet to be published, but keep your eyes out. Probably towards the end of this year, it'll be published. And I think there's some good news in that for many installers and designers. So, yeah, the standard's catching up with the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay. So, yeah, just a reminder to the audience, so you just happen to join, feel free to ask questions of myself or my guests. And, so coming back to Kane, one of your other hobbies is ham radio. Now, what got you into that?
Oh, that's a bit of an interesting story. So that would be my grandfather. And with CB radio, he used to talk to his friends a lot when out camping. So I was given a set, CB radio set, a little 23 channel when I was a child. put in my cubby house with a couple of batteries, and that was great. It used to work quite well. Something I used to play with my friends. We talk all around the neighbourhood. Mobile phones went around, internet, nothing like that back then. So that was in the early 90s. It would have been good if I had solar then, because then my batteries wouldn't have went flat in my cubby house. So I could never figure out how to get that to work at the time, because we didn't have solar panels that were available then that I could use. But so then that led into being as a teenager, the local radio club in Shepparton advertised for new members, and my mother pushed me and said, you should go. So at the age of 14 years old, I joined the radio club, and from there, my hobby flourished, I guess. So worked my way up in the club over time, and was the vice president there for a couple of years. And probably recently, since my move to Bendigo, I haven't been involved in the hobby as much, but it's something I'm looking at getting back into once settled here. So, yeah.
You must have annoyed the hell out of the local truckies in Shepparton when you were a kid on CB radio.
Yes. They were interesting times, to say the least. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very unusual public forum.
Yeah.
I'm very pleased I learnt about CTCSS.
Oh, yes.
Or whatever it's called, yeah, because my kids use two-way radios a lot around the property here. So, yeah, don't have to listen to all that sometimes rather profane chat.
No, most definitely. And that's why moving to the amateur radio platform was something I wanted to do, just with the different frequencies and different people, and the involvement with computers as well. I've had the opportunity to chat to Andy Thomas at the time on the International Space Station. So that was quite a few
Really?
years. Yeah.
Wow.
I had a quick chat with him. It was a very brief chat. He just acknowledged my call sign. That was it.
Yeah.
That was on 146 megahertz at the time. So, yeah, that was a bit of a highlight when I was a lot younger. So it was in my 20s or something, yeah.
Oh, gosh, that's amazing. Hey, Andrew from Sydney is really one of our key questioners today, so I'll better throw his question up to you. So he says, my understanding with Tesla battery is that it won't return the capital cost. 10 years, 3,650 days, times maximum battery storage capacity per day, times cost of buying power from the grid is less than the cost of the battery. Now, what do you think?
Yeah, it really depends. I when I speak to clients about selling battery solutions, I sell on the technology, not necessarily return on investment. A lot of our clients that are purchasing batteries in the regional areas is because they want that backup protection, that blackout protection. They're not buying it purely for return on investment. So I do agree with that. The return on investment is a very long time. But that's not to say that you still don't purchase one. I certainly would look at one for myself, just purely for the fact that it's great for that blackout protection. And if you're using in the future maybe an EV or something, putting electricity into that battery for storage and then charging your vehicle when you get home from that rather than from the grid. So that's where I think it's going to really come into its own when people start adopting that as technologies.
Yeah, indeed. I often answer that question by, what's the return on investment on your car? And then people look at you strangely. What do you mean? And they go, well, why did you buy a car? Well, I wanted to go from A to B. So, a battery is more than just storing energy. It might actually be about, backup protection. It might be about just having clean energy, not using dirty energy. There's lots of reasons to store your own energy. Oh, another question. This one's from Brian. G'day, Brian. So Brian, actually a former student of mine. So I'm an Amber Power retail customer, and I am now getting charged for solar export on Saturdays and Sundays, ranging from 4 to 8 cents per kilowatt hour. So he's actually pointing out that the tide has turned now. That with a rule change on the Australian the NEM, the National Electricity Market, it's possible to actually charge for export power. And I guess it's sending a price signal to customers that the retailer doesn't want your solar.
Yeah, it's not a great thing being charged. It's it's something that's happening a lot more. I'm seeing it. The retailers are starting to sort of they're putting pressure on the people who are purchasing solar to pay, and it's not something that I necessarily agree with. I know when I first put my solar back on in 2018 on my residence, I had a 16 cent feed-in, and I'm not home during the day, so because I'm at work. So for me to be able to feed back in and get those additional credits certainly made a big difference for me. I'm only on 10 cents a kilowatt hour for export. Now, in saying that though, when we have people call up about solar, the best is to try and self-consume. So I use my dishwasher during the day. I'll set it on a timer, and also do my washing. I set it on a timer. I try and do as much as possible by offsetting my electricity into those solar hours. And recently we had a commercial client that I provided a solution for and included solar analytics with it, and it allowed them to also move all their refrigeration and heating under those solar hours. So it gave them additional benefit. But yeah, it's a bit of a tough one, and I think we'll probably see a little bit more of this occurring. And I think what will need to happen is the industry will need to start demonstrating to people who are looking at solar in ways that they can move their loads and shift those loads. And technology such as solar analytics will give them the ability to see that and load shift those things. But I think it's more about educating the people who are purchasing solar on how to do that.
Yeah, really good point. I mean, I think the the goalposts, sorry, have shifted a bit, and it's all about self-use. But there's other revenue streams available to solar and storage customers. There's another plus for storage is with virtual power plant options being rolled out by different states. So South Australia was the first. Victoria is a sort of new in the area, but we expect a lot more of this. And if people aren't familiar with the term, virtual power plant is where lots of small systems, a solar and a battery in your home, are aggregated as effectively a big battery by a retailer who can then sell that service to the wholesale electricity market. And that often means just calling upon your battery for short periods of time, 5 minutes even, occasionally, to meet a demand and get paid handsomely for it. So have you done any, Tayyab? Have you done any virtual power plant setups?
So we are liaising with two power plants, companies. So recently, in a recent time, we had a chat with Tesla about it, to put all the Tesla batteries into the VPP. So we're definitely looking into that in a sooner level, and requesting the customers to join the VPP to help it. So that's it.
Great. Brian's just added he's having his cake and eat it. So hang on, just bring him his quick comment on screen. However, I export my battery of an evening and get on average 40 cents per kilowatt hour. Best price was $3 per kilowatt hour. Now, I should point out that Amber Electric is quite a novel retailer whereby you're actually your pricing is tied to the wholesale electricity price, and so you've got to be a bit of a really switched on customer to use it well, or you'll be paying too much at the wrong time of the day. But as Brian's just pointed out, you can also take advantage of this. If you know that there is a price hike coming through, you can dip your consumption, but if there's a high demand for renewables and they're offering you 40 cents a kilowatt hour to export, then just pump that battery. That's great. Thanks, Brian. So look, I was just looking through a few things there with you, Kane, or going through a few things with you, Kane. We've looked at the ham radio, the Sun Racer, the fan of the WRX.
Oh yeah, I've always been into my cars, and so just recently, probably in the last 2 years, I decided that I'd buy a vehicle that was one of my dream cars, and ended up purchasing a WRX. Although it doesn't get a lot of use this day and age, now that I'm sort of using the Kohler Solar's Nissan Leaf, which is an EV. So it sits in the garage a little bit, but when it's a sunny day and we're getting into that better weather now, take it for a bit of a spin. But I think the EVs are now starting to rub off on me a little bit more. I do still enjoy driving a vehicle, a performance vehicle, but I think moving forward into the future, I'd be seriously now looking at implementing an electric vehicle for my for a family vehicle.
Since you mentioned the WRX, are you a fan of Mighty Car Mods YouTube
Most
channel?
definitely. Yeah, very big fan of Mighty Car Mods. Follow them very closely. I've even purchased their book that's just been released. I follow the gentleman very closely there. And my son does also as well. He's really into it. We sit down and we watch it together. My son Cameron. So yeah, we really enjoyed the gentleman up there. So
Yeah, Marty and Moog, yeah,
yeah,
they're amazing.
absolute legends.
I take inspiration from their style, which is just be real, uh, fool around a bit, have fun with your audience and your friend, and enjoy what you do.
They're a real inspiration to us Aussies in the car enthusiasts, definitely.
I mean, the for me, I'm actually not much of a fan of car modification. In fact, I've got a 30-year-old, I think it's 30, yeah, 30-year-old troop carrier. Only mods I do is to keep it going. But recently my partner bought an electric vehicle, and so I'm a super fan of EVs. Now, I believe that, is it Cola Solar have their own EV?
Yes, we certainly do. It's a Nissan Leaf. It's been sign written and it drives around. I've got it here. It's actually here at the moment, out the front, charging on our network. So we've got 30 kilowatts of solar on the roof here at Cola Solar, and it's soon to be upgraded. Tayyab, to give you a little bit more information on what we're doing here, we're sort of running a little bit of a project here at Cola Solar with some new panels. So I'll let Tayyab fill in the audience in regards to that.
Okay, cool. Go for it.
So basically, we came to know about a project. So these are the e-arc panels from Sunman Energy. So these are the thinnest panels, which are glassless, so no glass in them, and the lightest weight as well. Like that can be installed on the roofs which can't support structure. And as you know, like the normal panel is 18 to 22 kgs, and these panels are 2 to 3 kilos, so it's easy for an install. So we have decided with the management of Cola Solar and decided to go to test it on our roof first, as first Sunman install of 30 kilowatt of Sunman panel with 1G 29.9 of an inverter. And it's still in progress in commissioning mode, and sooner when it's get installed, we'll definitely be putting a video on YouTube and our social media platforms. So that's it.
Cool. Actually, while you were speaking, I just put the link on the screen there to Sunman Energy. So this is Dr. Shi. It's his company. I mean, he's a great Australian story, really. A young Chinese engineer comes to New South Wales Uni, studies under Professor Martin Green, helps develop some of the technologies which made solar better and cheaper, starts Suntech in China, becomes one of the wealthiest men in China, an early big player in the solar industry, and then does his own thing. He's always looking what's next. And so these flexible panels from Sunman, I saw them at the Smart Energy Expo just earlier this year. And I can see all those advantages you just listed, Ty. The fact that they're lightweight for roofs, particularly the composite roofs, which don't actually design to support much more than themselves. Great for the fact that panels are getting heavier and heavier. We're getting close to 30 kilos from many panels these days. 2 people lifts, they're difficult to manage. Also transport, you can get an awful lot of those Sunman panels on a pallet now compared to just your standard glass ones.
So we can easily fit 66 panel in a pallet, and easy to like transfer over. Like when we were installing, so we just put on a fork and put the panels up onto the lift, and with the scissor lift as well. So the boys were very happy when they were doing the transfer of the panels from the ground to the roof. So they said that's been amazing.
Yeah, and the flexibility. So you can
Yes.
put them onto, funky architect design roofs.
Yep.
One of my pet hates actually is the way architects don't have much consideration for the practicalities of solar when they design a roof. So, the modern Australian home has so many facets on it. It's hard to find anywhere to put panels anymore.
Yep, that's true.
You're listening, architects? Make a nice big flat roof. Just like this. That's what we want. So north, south, east, west, that's good. Hey, just back to you, Kane. So, look, I'm just ticking off that lovely list of your hobbies, and everyone's got a story behind it. And so, when you were talking about ham radio, you made me realise or remember that actually radio is where solar started in Australia. So, the fact that we needed remote area communications, it was more about radio telephone as opposed to ham radio. But yeah, that's really the origins of Australia's solar story, is radio.
Mm. Yeah, it's certainly an interesting hobby, and look, when you've got a technical mind, it's a hobby that they've made a lot easier for people to get into now. We've got people in their like children at the age of 7 passing their foundation licensing and getting into the hobby, and it's just something different away from using the internet to communicate. And I explain to my son Cameron quite often that you can talk to other people around the world, not necessarily on the computer. You can use radio, and it's quite interesting to sit down and show the younger generation of what you can actually do. And not knowing who you're going to actually end up talking to, it's sort of a little bit of a mystery, and it builds a little bit of excitement being able to do that. And there's just so many different facets to the hobby, that it's sort of like entering the IT industry. You're not sure where you're going to take off. And there's different parts that I've been interested in with satellite communications, and I've got a friend of mine, Lee, and he does a lot of, he used to do a lot of microwave work, bouncing signals off the moon, just a lot of different facets in the hobby. And then there's now the internet involved in it, where you hook up a radio to the internet and it uses the internet as a backbone. So I can be traveling in my vehicle and punch through an internet gateway and be talking into the likes of Pakistan or somewhere where Tayyab's from. So it bridges everyone together in a very fascinating way.
It's true.
Ooh. Yeah, look, a good friend of mine, I haven't seen him for a long time, Michael. He met his wife, he's a ham radio operator, because he was talking to her dad in Vanuatu, and he's in Australia, and his daughter kept on sort of butting in all the time to talk to the dad, and he started talking to her, and before you know it, love affair develops. He goes to Vanuatu and marries her. So there you go. It was ham radio brought them together. Hey, I didn't realise kids could get a ham licence. So I always associate it with old blokes with beards, though you haven't got a beard, Kane. But what's it cost to get into ham radio operating if you're a young person?
Oh, not much at all, really. I'm not sure what I did my licence when I was in my early 20s, but they changed the licensing structure years ago that you can. You don't need to do Morse code anymore. The basic foundation license, it was, I think, 30 questions from memory. I think it's still the same. I haven't obviously needed to resit that, but they've just made it now a very basic test. You get a very limited power output you can have on your radios, and also the frequencies that you can use. And it's opened it up for the younger generation. So as long as you've got good mentors and getting into your local clubs, that's where it gives the ability to go and get those younger generations involved in the hobby.
Hey, I hadn't realised Morse code wasn't part of the test anymore. Wow.
No, they removed it, yeah, which was a bit of a limiting factor when I was quite young. It was quite hard to learn if no one's there to teach you. But later on, I found out they removed it, and then I ended up getting my licence around the age of 23. I didn't go for the foundation. I skipped that and went for what they call the standard, which is the middle license, and I'm looking at maybe upgrading to an advanced in the future. But I need more technical knowledge and study to get to that level. So,
right, cool. So at the other extreme of your interest, sorry to keep picking on you, Kane, but you said you got into beekeeping. Now that's really a long way from tech hobbies.
Yeah, so that was just a little bit of a hiccup one day. I was sort of unwell, and I was sitting on the internet just surfing through YouTube and come across beekeeping and thought, I'll look into that. And I just started researching it, came across the flow hive, which is an Australian invention, and decided this doesn't look too difficult. I'll go do a course in Melbourne over a couple of days and registered as a beekeeper, purchased a hive, set it up, and lo and behold, I started producing honey. So that was just a little side venture. And I did that for a couple of years, and then finished up when I moved to Bendigo. So,
I actually just looked up Flow Hive because I vaguely remember seeing it. And yeah, if you don't have to destroy the what do you call it, frames, because it's constantly dribbling honey out into a jar or something. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the way that it works is you're not disturbing the bees when you do your harvest. You're not pulling the
Yeah.
frames out and crushing or uncapping, as they call it, the honeycomb. It basically is a plastic membrane that moves, the honey flows, and then the bees will go back in and seal it up. So it's it's less work. There are some purists that don't like it necessarily, but for a beginner, I found it really good just to go through and learn more about how the bees operate. It's very mathematical, the way they work, but then you go down a rabbit hole. So it is a lot of hard work, but very rewarding at the same time.
Right, cool. So anyone who's interested, honeyflow.com.au. That's where I just looked it up. I don't know if it's a brand or not, but it's got some lovely pictures of the flow hive there. Cool. Yeah, so Ty, just coming back to you, you've third generation electrical engineer. Woohoo! I'm a little bit interested in, well, I'm a lot interested in actually your journey as a young person, graduating from university in electrical engineering and trying to move into the workforce. How did that go for you?
So for me, I think that would be a easier part because I was having a good knowledge about it because of my dad and when my grandfather retired. So as a casual talks at home, so I just keep learning in a high school, and then when I went into uni, I just dive a bit deeper into it, and then. When I come to Australia, finish my degree in here, finding a job for me is I think a bit easier because I applied on 10 jobs, get a response from six different employees, and but I received a first call from Cola Solar and then decided to go to Cola Solar. So Tony Ruff and Tim Grime. They just give me a call and they said, "What's the plan for the interview?" I said, "That's a good thing." So I just came here and then gave an interview. They were happy with my knowledge and everything, and they said, "Give it a go." So just here at
Okay.
Colasola today.
So what advice would you give to young graduates in electrical engineering looking for work?
So I can only say never give up because things will come to you if you try a bit hard. So if you have a good knowledge of engineering and good skills on the same side, so it would be easier, not a difficult part, I reckon.
Hey, Tobe, you've got a fan out there. There's Gopi. Do you know Gopi?
Go for
He's the man.
He's our
Indeed,
man.
he's the big man.
Yeah.
I met Gopi at the Smart Energy Expo earlier this year. Yep. Yeah, I do these little interviews with people at the shows and stuff, and yeah, he was up there, and I was down here with the microphone. So yeah,
Tall man.
yeah, indeed. Thanks for that, Gopi. Okay, well, look, going back to Cola Solar, there's a few things that you were quite excited to tell me about, and one of them was solar analytics. Now, I had Nigel Morris, no relation, on this show a few months back, about a month ago, and he works for solar analytics. I've been a test site for solar analytics for some time, so I'm very familiar with it. But what attracted it to you?
Personally, I've been using solar analytics on my own solar at home. Prior to starting work at Cola Solar, I was looking at a monitoring technology that was going to be a little bit more than what you'd get in an inverter. Uh, Quick Google and landed on solar analytics, looked into it, and at the time spoke to my solar installer about installing it. They said to me they had done a few and they would set it up for me. I implemented it, fantastic product. I dealt a few questions with the technical team, especially Kathleen. I had my panel wasn't on the list. I emailed them. They put it on the list. I could pop it in, and I thought, geez, their customer support to an end user was fantastic. Starting at Kohler Solar this year, I spoke to management in regards to implementing solar analytics as part of our monitoring platform here. They've been looked at in the past, but I just don't think anyone had driven it to the point that I was happy to do. With my technical background and understanding of the product, I put my case forward and we implemented it, and it's something that we put on all our commercial installations now, and we try and introduce the benefit to our residential clients as well, which has been quite successful. And in the upgrade of our solution with our solar here, we'll be also installing solar analytics as part of that as well. So we're a big advocate for it here, and we've demonstrated its use to a lot of clients, and especially with, as I mentioned, the install we did for one of our clients and demonstrated to them how to use it, and they were able to shift all their loads from off-peak power right onto their solar curve. So yeah, it's a fantastic product, and it shows a saving straight away to the client in a dollar figure, which is great.
Yeah. I just put the link on the screen for those who are not familiar with solar analytics. Are you familiar with their new feature called Plan Optimizer?
Yeah, we've been following that pretty closely, and I have been sort of talking to clients in regards to that, and I think it's live now. I haven't actually checked that. I'm pretty sure it's live now here in Victoria. I know they're looking at implementing that, so great benefit for people to be able to compare plans. I had a client the other day actually say to me, I sit down all the time and try and work it out, but it's just too difficult. But I've said there's a platform now that's going to be able to do that for you, and you can just sit back and choose which energy retailer you want to switch to and see the savings. So they're quite happy with that, and it was good that we could provide that product to them, knowing that they're going to be able to use that functionality in the future.
For those who are not familiar with the concept or even the service Plan Optimizer, effectively it's based on your actual energy use pattern using the Solar Analytics energy meter. It could then use some AI to look at all the plans available. And by the way, there's something like 2,000 tariffs in Australia, but they're not all available everywhere, but there's an awful lot of them. And so it works out what will give you the best return. And the motto when you're choosing a retailer is don't be beholden to them. Like, don't choose one and stick with it, because you'll be hit with what's called the loyalty tax. After 1 year, usually you go on to a default rate, which is higher than what you got as the sweet deal to join. So make sure you shop around, but Plan Optimizer will find that for you, the very best deals out there. So that's an amazing service that you can get through Solar Analytics. Good on them. So coming back to Kohler Solar again, and I should just put you a little your URL up on the screen for people who want to chat to you directly. You do residential, you do commercial, you do off-grid. What else?
EV charging, something that we've implemented now.
Yep.
We're also a ChargeFox preferred sort of installer, so we've joined up with JetCharge and ChargeFox, so we can do commercial EV charging as well, and a billing platform through ChargeFox. We've also got our own ChargeFox charger here that's available to the general public that they can charge on for free. And we're also assisting the Bendigo Tech Centre with the Girls in STEAM project. We're installing the charger for their EV conversion vehicle of their Range Rover. Graham Wiggins is actually running that project with Jaunt Motors, and as I said, they're converting a Land Rover into an electric vehicle.
STEAM project? What's STEAM mean? Is it an acronym?
Oh yes, I know you were going to ask me that. So Tayyab, you'll have to remind me what that actually stands for. It's the
science, technology, engineering, something and something.
Mathematics.
As opposed to STEM.
Yep.
Yes, that's right. They've added the A in there, and I can't remember what the A was. Graham, if he's there, he might be able to make a comment. I can't remember what the A is. But yeah, I'm involved in that, and my stepdaughter is actually involved in the project as well. So yeah, she's visibly going there on Saturdays and sanding and using equipment and welding, and yeah, it's been quite a journey.
And that's at the Bendigo Tech School.
At the moment, it's been run out of the back of the science facility, and it's been running there for quite some time, and they will be moving it, but it is being run by the Bendigo Tech Centre. Yes.
Oh, Tech Centre. Sorry. Yeah.
Tech
Oh,
School. I should be able to. I'll find the URL and I'll put it up. They do have some information on their website. So
that's great. Wow. So converting a Range Rover from internal combustion engine to electric?
yes, using Tesla parts. Yes.
Wow. Wow. Oh, that's an awesome project.
Yeah.
Oh, good on her. Yeah, and good on Bendigo Tech Project. That's really good of them to do that.
Yeah. So
Cool.
I'm just finding the link now because it might interest some people who are interested in EV. So yeah, it is a great project for young girls and coming in. So they've got students from the year 7 all the way up to year 12 that are involved in it, from my understanding. So.
Oh, good one. Cool. So if you want to just put that in the private chat, I can share it
Cool.
through a lower third on the screen. But that'd be great. So it's let's get the name right. It's the Bendigo
Tech School.
Yep. Tech School. It is Tech School. Yeah, and it's a project under the Bendigo Tech School. Yeah, cool.
That's right.
All right. So just another shout out to the audience. If you want to ask any questions, make some comments, show us some love and give us a thumbs up or all those good things, feel free. And once again, there it is, the Tech School. So I'm just going to copy that. It's quite a long link. We'll see how that goes in the caption. Let's pop it in there for you. Take a moment to come up. There it is. Probably could Google it, but I know that's doable. It's got lots of human readable words in it. Yeah, some URLs are just like a cat ran over your keyboard.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So look, I think we've just about come to the top of the hour, as I do, and it's been great chatting to you both. Kane and Tayyab, and learning a bit about Kohler Solar and what you do and how you got there, and a bit of the fun that you do when you're not at work. I've really enjoyed getting to meet you both.
Thanks,
Thank you
Glenn.
very much. It's been a pleasure.
No worries. And of course, if anyone's got questions, you can carry on answering them through the chat, and Kane and Tayyab will probably pick those up after the show's finished. Yep. So I'm just going to say farewell to Kane and Tayyab and do my outro. See you guys.
Thank you very much.
See you, Glenn.
Yep. Well, that was another Toolbox Tech Talk. I should announce basically the fact that this is probably one of the last Sunday live Toolbox Tech Talks. I've been doing them ever since COVID lockdown started, and looks like we're coming out of lockdown in Victoria here. So it's my chance to get out of the house and go somewhere on a Sunday with my family. Bendigo sounds like a great place to go. And you, Tayyab and Kane, I'll be turning up with a Type 2 connector, an electric vehicle, and plugging in at your place. So yeah, watch out for a little black Hyundai electric vehicle turning up there at Kona. So anyway, everyone, it's been great chatting to you, and see you next week, but it might be just one of the last ones. So we'll see what happens then. Ciao.